So what I was saying before, Nathan.
Yes.
A lot can happen in a month.
Okay. Yeah.
And one of the things which did happen, which was a lot of the things,
Yeah.
was we hit
Oh yes.
100 subscribers. Oh, I wasn't ready. Let's figure. Rotate this way. I gotta get my cup.
I feel like I did, but it didn't work. Okay.
Oh.
Say that again.
One thing that happened was we hit 100 subscribers.
What? So bad, isn't it? Mate, stick to your spreadsheet.
One thing. Take it easy. One thing that happened was we hit 100 subscribers.
I don't think you'd... What do you...
It says rotate this way. Oh! Wow, that was great.
Incredible.
Yeah, so it's actually 100 and... I think we're at 107 now or something.
Wow.
So that's just how fast we're growing.
That's crazy.
That's how long it took to... We actually ordered these at like 70, I think, though. So
Sure.
that's how long they came. So yeah, celebratory... This is the podcast that pays more tax than the rich. Welcome to HQLA episode 19.
I mean...
We can try out another one.
If you think of anything else, I wouldn't be opposed to you trying it.
All right. This is the podcast with 100 subscribers. HQLA episode 19.
This is the podcast with more than 100 subscribers.
More than 100 subscribers. That's good. That's good. What
Bro,
else
it's
have we got?
becoming a bit less niche.
Yeah,
A bit less exclusive.
We're getting more members of the very cool HQLA club.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We might have to start restricting it soon.
Alrighty.
Okay.
So what I was thinking is we could jump into a bit of news.
Yeah, so what's been
before
happening?
we start
It's
anything.
been a while.
Yeah, so it's been a while, and so long, in fact, that a lot of different things have happened.
Okay.
Which makes the Tesla bot opener not quite work as well.
Oh,
But,
yeah, gotcha.
yeah.
Yes.
But because that was like a month ago, but it was like right after.
Feels like a long time ago.
It was like right after we released our episode. It does feel like a long time ago.
True.
Yeah, so the first thing I've got is that the Met Gala happened. Tax the Rich at the Met Gala with AOC. I've talked about AOC before, so I thought that would be a good
True.
a good bring up. It actually costs. Actually, do you want to guess what the ticket costs to get into to get into the Met Gala?
10 grand.
It costs $35,000.
Oh wow. That's a lot. Does it go
and-
to a charity or something?
I think
Would
so.
have thought
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
I'm not sure.
But yeah. So the I think it's organized by like Vogue or something.
Okay.
So whatever they choose to do with the money.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
AOC,
maybe it doesn't go to a charity.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know much about it.
I'm not sure. But AOC sells Tax the Rich merch from her online store.
Really?
Which I thought was funny because it's like this anti-capitalist approach.
Yes.
And then sells the merch, which is great.
Yeah.
What else has been happening? We've got Canva, which has a new valuation. So for anyone who doesn't know what Canva is, they provide easy-to-use design templates for people that want to make good content.
Yeah, very easy.
And it's for the people that don't want to use Photoshop.
It's kind of like for me.
Yeah, the people that don't know how to or don't want to use Photoshop.
Yeah.
And they actually did a fundraising and hit a valuation of US $40 billion.
Yeah, right. They're definitely one of the most valuable startups at the moment.
Yeah, or 55 billion.
It's pretty crazy.
AUD, and they're headquartered in Sydney. That's pretty cool.
That's awesome, actually.
So it's another Aussie tech.
Well, Atlassian just hit $100 billion market cap today.
Yeah, there you go. It's a good one.
Yeah, so that's another Aussie
Team on the Nasdaq.
team. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Canva
Do you own
has.
any?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. They've had a good run, actually, in the last month or so.
I owned Team since or Atlassian since I started using Jira at work like 2 years ago.
Oh, really?
Because Jira, I saw it was like actually quite good, and I was like, oh, a lot of the corporate world runs off Jira.
Yeah.
And so I realized how good it was and how much margin there was in that.
Yeah.
Anyway, Canva has 60 million monthly active users.
Yeah, right.
And there are now more than 500,000 paying teams to Canva with companies like American Airlines, Salesforce, Intel, and PayPal.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, 500,000 paying customers and
cool.
60 million monthly active users.
Yeah, right. It's interesting that companies who have a department that would usually specialize in that are paying for their other staff members to be able to like just mock up stuff.
Yeah, but they can pay people straight out of uni or like interns or whatever now to do that instead of people with actual skills. Totally. So it's kind of funny.
It is.
Or they can pay the people with the skills to make stuff on Canva if they want. Here we go. I got another good startup for you. MailChimp sold for $12 billion to Intuit.
$12 billion.
$12 billion.
To who?
Intuit is the name of the company.
Okay.
And MailChimp is, so for everyone who doesn't know, they're a marketing automation platform for email marketing. They've got 800 employees, and they offer more than just email. They've got social ads, landing pages, postcards, and more digital marketing stuff.
Yeah.
So in 2019, they had 11 million active customers.
Okay.
And an audience of 4 billion.
What does an audience mean?
So
people that they're sending content to.
So 4 billion different email addresses.
Oh wow.
In their database. In their audience, yeah. So
yeah, right.
Obviously
4 billion, did you say?
Yeah. So there's enough cross sections of businesses to.
It's probably not 4 billion people though. Hey?
Email subscribers. Well, if you think about
that half the world.
Well, yeah, but think about how many email addresses.
Yes.
It's like one person has.
Correct.
They can have 10 email. Well,
that's
probably the average person has like 6 or 7 email addresses. Right?
I'd say so.
So it's still an impressive number though.
Yeah, totally.
So there's a cross section where 11 million of the businesses are obviously interacting with a huge amount of like probably more than 30% of the population on Earth, though. So it's an interesting, it's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah, and totally. Those 11 million customers are obviously customers of MailChimp.
Yep.
Here's another one for you.
Okay.
Discord,
yes.
They've raised a new round of funding for $500 million.
Wow.
And they're now worth $15 billion.
15 billion.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's a lot.
So that's another good valuation for you.
That's fair enough. We have one of the subjects I'm doing at uni. They have a Discord for the subject.
Yeah. So
you can jump on. And one of the students was trying to explain to our teacher what Discord is.
Yeah.
He's like this old economics guy.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
So good.
Yeah.
I assume not the student. The
teacher student wasn't this old economics guy.
Oh yeah.
He was the staff member.
Yep. So obviously the app is used to chat, and basically there are different group chats, and you can type
centered around gaming and that stuff, right?
Yeah. So it's a really good. I think it's a really good community building app for gamers and Twitch streamers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they turned down an offer of $12 billion from Microsoft. They turned down the $12 billion offer from Microsoft earlier in this year.
Yep.
And 1 year ago, they were valued at $7 billion.
Yeah, wow.
So they've got up to 15.
Sorry, and what was their value at the moment?
And their value at the moment is 15.
15, okay.
So,
and they turned down 12 at the start of the year?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, from Microsoft. So,
wow.
Would have been a big opportunity. But
yeah, I wonder why.
Yeah, well, one of those things. Maybe they're just hanging out for the next one.
True. Oh, okay.
They'll get offered again.
True. Yeah.
Or they just IPO for more than 15 billion.
Yes.
Who knows?
Yeah.
And they have 150 million monthly active users.
Wow.
So yeah, pretty
That's
cool.
Awesome. Actually, they probably wouldn't be a bad time to go public. I feel like there's a good amount of hype around them, and their demographic would probably get on board with it.
Yeah. Well, if you have a look at purely on a monthly active user, the last 3 companies we've talked about just there.
Yeah.
Canva's got 60 million monthly active.
Yeah.
And they're valued at 40 billion.
Yeah.
MailChimp's got 12 billion as a valuation.
Yeah.
And they have 11 million monthly active users.
Yeah.
And Discord's got 150 million
that's
monthly
crazy,
active users. So like twice as much as Canva, more than 3 times as much as Canva.
Yeah.
And then they're valued at
I don't know what their revenue model is, though.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the tricky part. It's like you can have these really massive user numbers, but obviously Canva's making way more money per user.
Absolutely.
So there's that. Rivian gave itself an $80 billion valuation as they filed for an IPO.
Yes, that's right.
I believe the S1 form is the one that you would use to file for an IPO? Is that what you would say?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Well, it's an SEC thing, so it's not really our area.
No.
we're not really in...
I have been thinking about I should probably figure out what all these forms mean. It's like a 10K and a...
Yeah. 10K is a big one. Yeah.
Anyway.
I think 10K is how people file their earnings. But,
yes, I think that's right.
Yes, anyway, so if we look at Ford, they've already got 120,000 reservations for the F-150.
As in the F-150 Lightning?
Yeah, the F-150 Lightning, yeah. And
how many?
120,000 reservations.
Okay, yep.
If we look at Tesla, they're looking to start delivering the Cybertruck in early 2022.
Yep.
That's essentially what they're dealing with, because the Rivian makes the pickup trucks that we kind of brushed on in an earlier episode.
Yeah, we've mentioned them.
So Ford, a company which started in 1903, has a market cap of $53 billion and produces 4.2 million vehicles a year.
Yeah.
And Rivian's first production R1T has rolled off the production line 6 days ago.
Yeah.
And is asking for $80 billion as their market cap. So,
wow.
Yeah, so to date, Rivian's raised $10.5 billion.
Yeah.
Which is pretty crazy considering the difference there between 10 and 80.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a funny one. Even when Ford are producing a product like that, like the Lightning, which is actually a pretty cool competitive product, and yet still they're not valued anywhere near the same multiple as something like Rivian.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's what they're valuing themselves in the pre-IPO. Like, I guess that's what the VC and the investment bank and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It can go horribly wrong. We've seen that happen with SoftBank and WeWork when they put in a massive valuation and the market said no.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the bull case. Amazon's ordered 100,000 Rivian vans. So,
really?
So yeah.
Wow.
So they're making delivery
that's cool.
vehicles for them.
Okay, that's sick then.
That's the Rivian part of the the news.
Since it's becoming public, we should probably talk about it at some point.
True. Yes. Well, we'll save that for another IPO episode special.
Yeah, I think so.
We have SpaceX.
Okay.
The mission.
Going public.
The mission was called Inspiration 4. They're not going...
Oh,
well, I don't know if they're going public or not. I think Starlink is the one that's going public, which is a part of SpaceX.
I don't think he's ever going to go public with SpaceX.
So the mission was called Inspiration 4.
Yes, I saw some.
And it sent a private all-civilian orbital mission into space.
Yep.
Dragon, which is the ship, spent 3 days in orbit and got to an orbit of 575 kilometers.
Okay.
So for context there, the International Space Station is at 420 kilometers.
Yep.
And the Hubble Space Telescope sits between those two figures at 540 kilometers.
Yep.
And the purpose of the mission was to raise money for the St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital.
Oh, really?
Which they raised $210 million for, which is great.
Wow.
So it was to do that, and it was also to study the human body in space. I think it was more to show... I think it was a late response to Virgin Galactic and Jeff with the Blue Origin.
Yeah.
I think it was like a late, look, we can send people up there as well.
We can do that too,
but Elon just didn't want to go, or,
It's got a few things to do.
Yeah.
I saw, I think I sent it to you, like the fake streams. Did you click on any of that?
The fake streams, and they made a bunch of money from...
yes.
Yeah.
So they basically... It's probably still up, I don't know, or maybe it's too late now, but just watch out for them. So people make these fake YouTube accounts which are called SpaceX, which firstly, why does YouTube allow like multiple people to have the same account name?
Yeah, true.
I think that's very strange.
The account name's exactly
the account name's literally exactly the same, just doesn't have the tick.
Right.
And so... it comes up that it's live, and they're playing like previously broadcast footage from that, but a few hours later, some people don't know. It says it's live. It's got Elon Musk talking, and then like sort of picture in picture, and then around the screen, it's got like Elon Musk is trying to promote cryptocurrency. Send 1 Bitcoin, and you'll get 2 back.
Yeah,
and it looks really legit. And so there's this article that I sent you of this guy, I think in the UK, who like was like some random normal middle-aged man, but for some reason had like $500,000 in Bitcoin, and or maybe it was Ethereum, and he sent it all to this stream, and then And so he's telling this story. He's like watching TV with his wife, and his wife goes to bed. And you can just imagine him. He's like sitting in the lounge room, and he sees this stream, and he's thinking about it. And then someone, he said he saw Elon post something related to it. Like he posted something about crypto, or maybe it was a fake Elon Musk account on Twitter as well.
Yep.
And then he's like, yeah, okay, this looks legit. And so he sends it. And then the ticker goes down, the stream stops, and he doesn't get it back. And he's like, he just like recites the moment where he's like, oh my gosh, I've just given away my whole life savings. And he goes up to his room and he like tells his wife. It's so sad. Crazy. Guys, you got to be careful.
That is rough. Watch out for scams.
It's so bad.
Yeah, that's terrible. It's a terrible thing to do to someone.
There's two ways that, sorry, I don't know. There's two ways you can make a lot of money. By knowing information or knowing how having skills that other people don't have, or by doing things that other people won't be willing to do. And so I think a lot of people exploit that second attribute by just doing things that are just ethically, morally, other people wouldn't be willing to do.
True.
But it's not really impressive.
And the people that do those kinds of scams have, they don't have the part of their brain that feels the guilt.
Yeah, potentially.
So that's the reason that they can do it and not like stress over it.
Yes.
Because like most people, they would be doing that and then they would be so stressed about it.
Totally.
And they would just feel guilty.
Yeah.
And they would either keep the money and have all these sleepless nights.
Yes.
Or they would like give the money back and because they felt terrible about it. You know? Whereas there are people just without that feeling.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's pretty bad, hey?
Onto a lighter note.
Yes, please.
And while we're on the topic of Elon Musk,
the
Tesla bot. So
okay.
So that did a funny little dance on the stage.
Yes. This was after the Boston, New York. Did you see the Boston, New York robots thing as well?
The Boston Dynamics.
Right.
Yeah.
He then did his robot day like not long after that, right?
Yeah. So I think it's part of AI Day.
Okay, AI Day, yeah.
Yeah. So Tesla have a battery day and an AI day.
Yes.
And I don't know what other days.
Who knows?
But Model S launch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Tesla bot did a funny dance on stage. It was actually a person in a suit.
Really?
Made to look like. Oh, you haven't seen the footage?
I haven't seen it at all.
There's someone dressed up like the Tesla bot's gonna look, and they did a break dance thing on stage.
Okay.
It was so funny. I can't believe you missed it.
You didn't send it to me. I can't believe you didn't send it to me.
Sorry, I apologize. It was a 3-hour long stream, so you know.
I didn't see it. Yeah.
So basically, there's a 12-minute segment in the 3-hour long AI Day presentation where it comes up, and there's just a funny little man in a suit doing like a dance.
Wow.
And then Elon's like, oh, well, that's not the real one, obviously. But and then he talks about it. So its name is going to be Optimus.
Oh, wow.
And it's a humanoid.
Yeah.
And they wrote all the stats out, like 175 centimeters and, and 120 pounds or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
Not 100% sure on those stats, but it's a humanoid robot capable of performing tasks that are unsafe, repetitive, or boring.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so that's the reason it exists.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I think it can only be good for Tesla and society.
Totally.
There's a lot of comments about iRobot. I don't know if you've seen the movie.
I
iRobot.
have seen the movie actually.
Yeah, thought it was pretty good.
I don't like it. Is it Will Smith?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't like the movie?
No.
I thought it was good. I went to watch it on the weekend.
Oh,
and
really?
I couldn't find it on Netflix, but I haven't seen it in more than 10 years.
Yeah, it's old.
So probably when I was a kid, I was like, oh, cool, guns and robots. And so I don't actually know if I like it or not. But
true. Okay.
But I went to watch it because I was like, oh yeah, I'd watch that again. Tesla's, bot's going to come out. Is it a bad idea? Is it a good idea? Mm-hmm. Couldn't find it, so I watched I Am Legend instead.
Oh, true. Similar vibe.
Yeah. And no robots though.
No.
Just zombies instead.
Yes.
What else happened? Donda and CLB came out.
Yeah.
Some good.
Do you know the first track on Donda? Do you know?
Yeah. It's a fan theory. It's not a.
Really? Is it really?
Yeah, it's not a like a verified fact.
Really?
So it's a fan theory that has been like spread around.
I'll just say it.
Yeah.
So apparently the first track on Donda, it's this random, almost like with no pattern, just phrasing of just Donda. And so apparently, it's the last moments of his mum, whose name's Donda or something.
Yeah.
Of her heart beating.
Yeah, and the whole album is supposed to be a eulogy to her. So Yeah, that's Donda Chant. But then the next song, Jail has if you overlay the beat on it, it like lines up with Donda Chant.
Oh, does it?
Which is really cool.
Okay.
So there's a really cool clip where someone takes it and they like there's some really like heavy sounds at the start of Jail.
Yeah.
And you overlay those on top of Donda Chant and it lines up and it sounds really good.
Okay. And there's also the Donda Challenge where you, which I just made up.
Yeah. You made it up on Twitter.
Yeah. Where you have to set the Donda Chant, the first track, as your morning alarm for a month. And just see how your body reacts after that time.
How many people caught on with that
I didn't get a lot of positive responses.
Well, we'll get
I did get some responses, though, but not positive.
Yeah. Certified Lover Boy was not as good as Donda.
No, I agree.
It was a bit of a miss.
But I'm not a big fan. I've never have been
of
Drake. So,
yeah.
But that's just me. Not him personally. I'm sure he's nice, but I don't know. It's just not my kind of music.
Yeah.
It's all the same.
Well,
that's controversial.
Ooh.
But it is.
Ooh.
Sorry.
Ooh.
Sorry, everybody.
And the last piece of news, which I wrote down, so I've got written here the China situation. That's the only thing I've written down because
we put stuff on TikTok.
Oh, well, I was hoping, but someone thought that it was related to this latest one because you know what's going on wrong with that company in China that crashed the market last night.
No, I don't know.
Oh, you don't know?
No.
Okay, so there's basically another Lehman Brothers situation. So in 2008, Lehman Brothers.
Yeah.
So there's basically the largest developer in China has like filed for bankruptcy.
Gotcha.
Last night, overnight in the markets.
Right.
And basically they're called.
Because you just assumed I would know.
Yeah, well, I thought you would know because I prepared all of the other news, so Evergrande. Okay, so Evergrande is like the largest real estate group.
Okay.
And the second largest property developer, there you go.
Wow.
By sales, that is.
Okay.
And they've pretty much collapsed. Here you go.
Gotcha.
They racked up an Australian $432 billion in debt.
Wow.
And plummeted more than 10% in trading in Hong Kong. And is down...
Their stock did.
Yeah, and is down...
Only 10%?
Well, and is down 72% in Hong Kong this year. So, yeah, it's a... here you go. It's a shockwave sending... No, it's a crisis sending shockwaves.
There it is. Yeah, true. Okay, I did notice a lot of red this morning when I was looking at things.
Right. So it looks like the main issue is that China was having a real estate market rise. They were having a bit of a bubble.
Yeah.
So it looks like they've taken out a massive amount of debt, built a whole bunch of homes.
Yeah.
And now it looks like the Chinese property prices are starting to drop.
Yeah.
Which is leaving them with a lot of debt and lower valuations, so they can't sell them for the right prices. And it's basically...
But don't they have an aging population?
Yeah, sure.
So my take
Yeah. No, actually, that's true because of the one-child policy and everything.
So it seems like not great management by that development company.
Well, it's greed.
Right, okay. Irrational greed.
Oh, here we go.
Okay, so what does Palantir, Elon Musk, and eToro all have in common?
Okay, so...
you just have a guess, I guess. Yeah.
So Peter Thiel and Elon Musk worked together at PayPal.
Yeah.
And part of the old PayPal mafia.
Yeah. eToro, though.
eToro is a trading platform.
Yeah, it is.
Socially based trading platform.
It is, yeah.
I don't know who...
Yep.
I don't know who works there, so I can't tell you what the connection is.
Okay. All right, do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, you tell me.
Well, I'll explain the segment, which will explain it.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about a company called Black Sky.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm glad that you're talking about Palantir in one in one thing.
I know, right?
That's normally my thing.
I know. I thought you might be a bit offended.
No, I'm proud.
You're proud? Okay,
proud.
Awesome. So there's a company called Black Sky.
Okay.
And they have just recently merged in a SPAC deal. And so I think they're a really cool company. And I think it could be a good little investment. So they were founded in 2014, so pretty fresh, to be honest. And their headquarters is in Washington, D.C. They have a second headquarters as well, but I think that's where their main headquarters is. And basically what they do is they provide real-time geospatial intelligence by similar to, like, this is going to sound very similar to Palantir, which is where it becomes really interesting, by monitoring activities worldwide, right? And so they've got like a big satellite constellation over the Earth, and so certain customers can tap into that and use it for pretty fast monitoring, and then also a bunch of AI analytics as well. So basically, it combines the space data with, so back in the old days, I know we've kind of talked about this with Palantir a bit, but previously you'd have to take the space data which was there from satellites we already had in space, and you'd take that data to a consultant or an expert, and they'd have to sort of explain what's going on and stuff like that. And then you'd have to try and plug that into some sort of software or analytics program to generate some sort of actionable outcome.
So do they own the satellites, or they own the process?
They own it all.
Right, that's cool.
Yeah, so they own satellites. And so by the end of this year, their plan is to have, it doesn't sound like very many, but they plan to have 14 satellites in space, some of them at different orbits. I'll talk a little bit more about orbits a little bit later. And you can use that with their trademarked and proprietarized platform, and it has a bunch of AI learning in it and stuff like that, so I can spit out a bunch of information without human interaction.
And they've just recently SPAC'd.
They've just recently SPAC'd.
Yeah, cool.
And there's some relation here to Palantir, which is actually really positive, so it's cool. Because they, from the outset, they probably seem like competitors, right, to a certain extent. And so they've got 175 employees, gives you a little gauge of scale. And they're founded by a guy named Jason Andrews. And so he got a Bachelor of Science, majoring in aerospace engineering, which is good, I suppose. And so he worked for like an aerospace company for 3 years, and then went straight on to start his own company, which is really interesting. And I'll give you a little bit more background there in a second. The CEO of Black Sky, so he's not the CEO anymore, Jason Andrews. The CEO, whilst he's still relative, like a little bit.
He's just the founder. He's not the.
He's the founder,
okay,
and I don't think he's even a board member. I think he's still in the background. For example, I was looking at his Twitter, and when they announced the SPAC deal, they were going to go public, he like posted it and was pumped and stuff like that. So he's still kind of there in the background, but I'm not sure how official his capacity is. So Brian O'Toole, he excuse me, he is the CEO. Background on him is he did a Bachelor of Computer Science, and then he did more than over a span of a few businesses. He did more than 20 years at both engineer, director, and chief technical officer levels within aerospace, 3D mapping, and geointelligence businesses.
Yeah, cool.
So that's pretty cool. Like, great wealth of experience.
Ties it all in together.
Exactly
yeah.
Right. And so this guy, Brian, who's the current CEO, didn't found the company. He did start his own 3D mapping company that was successfully acquired in 2005. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
And then he founded a geospatial intelligence solutions company called Openware that was successfully acquired by Black Sky in 2016. And so through that acquisition, Brian was first appointed as Chief Technical Officer, and then later in 2018, so 2 years later, he was promoted to CEO, and that's where he sits right now. So through that acquisition, I guess he became CEO. That's kind of cool. So basically, history on Black Sky itself starts with Jason Andrews. So Jason Andrews, as I said, he was the founder. And he had only a few years working for someone, and then went straight on in 1999 to start his own company called Andrews Space and Technology.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And he actually did that with his wife and father. And so
it sounds like a hard area to break into with with not much experience and obviously not much funding and stuff yet.
I guess key points here is he started it with his wife and father. I don't know what experience his father had. Maybe he helped him to break into that market, because as you're saying, it doesn't feel like... I feel like there's big barriers to entry.
Yeah. It's like going up against NASA, and you're like...
And so I can't remember the arrangement, but Jason was like the CEO, and his wife was like a director, and his father was like the COO or something like that. And they're all sort of in executive leadership positions. And so in 2003, so 4 years later, they changed the name to Andrews Space instead of Andrews Space and Technology. And basically what they did was they made CubeSats and nanosats. So it's cube satellites and nanosatellites. And they're just two different categories. So cube satellites are usually less than a kilogram. And they're made up, they kind of all clip together to a certain extent, and you might send a huge number of them up, and then they break apart into these tiny little CubeSats is what they're called. And then nanosats are a little bigger, and they're singular in nature when you send them up, and they're 1 to 10 kilos. And so the idea of them is they get deployed, and they can like observe the planet in pretty close to near real time. Was the plan.
Yeah, cool.
So this is kind of cool. You can see the relation to what Black Sky are doing here. It's kind of the foundation.
And so that's his original plan.
So that's his original company called Andrew Space. And so in 2009, so 10 years after he first started that first company, he starts a new company called Spaceflight. This is really interesting because Spaceflight was the first ever commercial space line.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Okay. So what they did is they didn't own any rockets. But what they did do is they provided like space transportation services through rideshare.
Okay.
Right. So
I thought you were going to say they sold Virgin Galactic tickets.
No.
They just like resold them. They scalped them. They bought them for $250K and sold them for $300K.
You can imagine SpaceX, for example, trying to prove this technology, and they're sending a rocket up into space for some reasons, but they have excess capacity to take on cargo. And so this company, Spaceflight, basically brokers that. And so you can approach Spaceflight and say, hey, I build satellites, which is their previous company. You can kind of see the connection here. I build satellites to try and get them into space. I don't have any rockets. Can I put my satellite in your rocket and send it up, and I'll give you X amount of dollars towards your flight?
Yeah, cool.
So you can see the connection there. So he's got a company that makes satellites. He's got a company that basically brokers access to using rockets.
Yeah.
And so then in 2013, he starts Black Sky Global. And so the idea of Black Sky Global is to kind of integrate the two and to bring in that technology to access some sort of data through what they've got. So the idea was to build infrastructure to observe the planet in real time. And he wanted 1 meter resolution satellites. So I've chucked a picture, and so you'll probably see it there, and it just shows the difference between, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it showed the difference between 1 meter squared resolution and a couple of other larger. And so it's actually quite good. And so for the first 2 years, so 2013, 2014, they operated in stealth mode, which is kind of cool. And so they didn't, it wasn't public. They didn't announce what they were doing, because obviously everything in that industry is, I suppose, kind of interesting to everybody else in the industry. So usually there's a lot of talk, but so they didn't tell anyone what they were doing. And so then in 2015, they formally unveiled at the Geospatial Intelligence Conference, which is the largest of its kind in the US, what they were doing. And they announced a flight that they were going to send a bunch of satellites up and stuff like that. And so in 2016, they made that acquisition of Openware, like I mentioned, which was Brian. That was his company. And it also notable in that is the Openware's COO, so Chief Operating Officer. He was appointed as Vice President of Geospatial Solutions at Black Sky. I think that's kind of cool, because the more you see C-level executives during a merger moving over into the new company, it kind of shows that there's positive vibes around the merger, right?
Yeah.
And it shows that you're actually getting all of the skills that was, I guess, intended when you were making that acquisition.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You know, and so then in 2021, Black Sky has merged with Osprey Technology Acquisition Corp, which is a SPAC. And that they're going to bring them to the public markets. So that's the history. As I said, Brian's now the CEO. Jason, who founded it, is in the background a little more. But something that I think you'll find interesting is Spaceflight. So remember Spaceflight, this company that basically brokers...
Yes, his second company.
His second company.
Yes.
So they still exist. And so what they say is they will plan, license, integrate, transport, and launch satellites. So they've launched 385 satellites to date. They've launched almost 5 tons worth of satellites.
Yeah, cool.
They've served 32 countries, and they have 10 launch vehicles in their network, which doesn't seem like many, but I guess that's 10 rockets. That's pretty cool.
10 rockets.
10 rockets.
Yes.
So that's pretty cool. And so I thought, well, wouldn't it be cool to what if we wanted to launch our own satellite?
Oh,
because we could.
HQLA rocket.
Why not?
HQLA satellite.
So imagine if we had the capacity to do that.
That would be
Guys,
great.
Get around this. Let's do a GoFundMe.
I think we put a little advertising billboard on it.
Yeah.
Subscribed. It's got like it's an LED screen. And It's got a live subscribe account.
Yeah.
Ticks up 107, 108.
Yes. Okay. Do you want to know how much it would cost?
Yes, I would like to know. Yes.
So they have this full, it's one of their things is they wanted to make space flight as simple. Space flight of satellites, not necessarily, they don't do people, but space flight of cargo, as simple as booking an aeroplane ride.
Yes.
A flight is probably the way you would say that. And it's actually true. So I did it. So on their website, you go through, it takes it through, and I said, okay, how big do I want my satellite? And I said, 1 by 1 by 1 meter.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's 1 meter cubed. And what weight? I said 20 kilos. Felt pretty good. It's a 2-man lift, but it's not too heavy.
Yeah.
And so inclination. So this is where we talk a little bit about orbits. I went with SSO, which is 500 to 600 kilometers, which is kind of the vibe you were talking about. And that's
yes.
That's sun synchronous
That's how
orbit.
far out they take it in orbit. Yeah, okay.
And so that changes the angle that they send it off or something like that. And so I don't know much about this, but so sun synchronous orbit is what that stands for. And basically the premise of it is it allows the satellite to pass the Earth at the exact same time every day. And so you can get like a photo of a certain city every day at the same time, see changes and stuff like that.
Cool.
So we could do that. So that's the inclination.
Yeah. We could take a really far away shot of us doing this.
Yeah.
When we're doing an outside episode.
That'd be sick.
Yeah.
And so I sent that away. I clicked enter and came up with some information. It said I could send it mid-morning, Q2 2022.
Okay.
Is the earliest.
In mid-morning?
Mid-morning.
In Q2?
In Q2.
Okay, great.
and it was going to cost me... Do you want to have a quick guess?
All right, so I reckon launching a rocket would cost $150 million, which means launching a satellite would cost $40 million.
1.84 million.
1.84?
Yeah, USD.
Okay.
And you don't even have to pay it all today. Only 10 grand. 10 grand today.
Down payment.
100 or 90%, 8 months out from the launch. And the other 10%, 3 months out from the launch.
Business idea right here.
How funny is that?
Crowdfund on Kickstarter a 1 meter cube of this thing,
Yeah.
and then the person that bids the most on their Kickstarter does the biggest donation. Gets to choose what they send up in the
or they
in
get
the
their
meter
name.
cube.
They get their name on the LED screen.
Yeah, they get their name on the LED screen, and it's but you have to bid, like you have to outbid everyone else.
Yeah, and you don't tell them what the other bids are.
Yeah.
So people are just bidding huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. And then you could, if you get to 2 million, you just get to keep 200K for taking that massive risk.
So that was cool. That was interesting, right?
Yeah, that's good.
Sick segment, hey?
Yeah.
Okay, so what does Black Sky do? Back onto the topic of Black Sky, okay?
Yes, yep. Had enough of the other silly companies.
And so Black Sky, they have 3 applications for the technology, and this is going to ring similar to Palantir, but I'll go through it quickly. The first one is government defense intelligence. The next one is commercial construction and industrial needs. And then the other one is catastrophe, climate, and natural disaster, environmental stuff. So I just summarized, they've got a bunch of different products and stuff. I'll just summarize how they apply some of their technology. So what you can do is you can task a satellite on demand. That is quite cool in itself. So Palantir has a lot of cool technology, but I think from what I could gauge from what you were saying, sounds like they got like sort of quite big customers, and it's all very like formal and structured, and it's like, this is our big plan, and so Palantir goes and assigns, this satellite to this mission and all this stuff. What Black Sky are doing is they're kind of trying to do it a bit more lightweight to a certain extent, and you can literally just task a satellite on demand, And within 90 minutes, you can get a live feed of a particular place on Earth.
It's like Uber for satellites.
Sure.
It's pretty cool.
And so, so it's pretty cool. And so they say they've got like a very simple, intuitive interface, which they say it's as easy as using just your iPhone or something like that. They actually say that. Cool. So it's kind of cool. And so they also have the AI-powered analytics that can derive insights with minimal human interaction. So that's kind of cool as well. And so they also have access to third-party constellations, meaning third-party satellites that they can utilize, I think. And also third-party imagery archives. So let's say, for example, you really need an image of a particular landscape because you're going to build a bridge or something. As Black Sky, we can say, yeah, we can send something there, but we actually already have archived in this folder here from a month ago some footage that we have, it's probably going to save you money. Here's that.
Yeah, true.
So they've got that option as well, which is kind of cool. And so they can monitor objects in critical locations. Sort of, how you were talking about that Chinese sub, that when it moves, it knows that it's an anomaly. Segment. And so it'll tell you, it has that sort of stuff as well. So it can track ports and airports. And I was watching one where it was like, it was monitoring a car park in an airport, and it had changed the colours of the car parks depending on how frequently they were used. And so it was really easy for the management to see, the red car parks were really used a lot. White, the green ones are never used. We could turn that into something else.
Yeah,
so
that's pretty crazy. Using a satellite to control your car parks. That's
there's a photo online we can grab of that. And then the other one is it can detect natural anomalies as well. So it can provide very quick disaster footage because it'll detect an anomaly somewhere. I don't know whether it's wind speeds and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of cool. And then they also do you can design and build and launch mission-specific constellations with them as well. So if you want to make your own satellite for some purpose-built reason, you can also do that with their support.
Yeah, cool.
So that's pretty cool. They got a bunch of different jargony tools and stuff related to that. But one thing that they say, which I think is really cool, is they say what used to take 2 to 3 days and cost $120,000, they can provide in less than 2 hours for the cost of $12,000.
Cool.
Pretty good.
Yeah. So that would have been what they're talking about there, is repurposing someone else's satellite, trying to figure out how to get it on the right track. Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, cool.
And so quick run of their performance. So for 2021, their revenue, and similar to Palantir, they can predict their revenue relatively accurately because they have a lot of large customers, and they know what their spending is going to be from the outset. They know they've got a project coming up next year, and so they can predict this stuff better than direct to customers, to consumers, businesses.
Yeah.
And so 2021 revenue is on track for nearly double 2020. And 2022 revenue still remains on track for more than double this year. So that's pretty cool. And the reason for that is there's expectations for 4 significant customers that are unnamed, obviously, to, on average, 4x their spend from 2021 to 2022.
It's the Taliban and Al-Qaeda.
Well, I'm about to mention that in a second. It's not, I don't think it is, but I'll bring that in a second. So they have an expected positive EBITDA for 2022, and which is pretty soon, which is pretty cool. And they expect to be free cash flow positive by 2024, which is pretty good.
couple of years away.
And by 2025, they expect to have over $200 million in EBITDA. And so the reason for that, the reason for that is they have a proven scalable 80% gross margin and 45% EBITDA margin.
Okay, cool.
Which is pretty good.
That's earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization.
That's correct. And so the current total addressable market is they calculate to be $13 billion plus.
Okay.
2025.
That's the total addressable market.
Yeah.
Okay.
For what they provide.
Yeah.
2025, they expect it to be $40 billion, which is a large increase. And so, as I said, they expect to have 14 satellites out by the end of the year and 10 ground stations. And they expect 25 new enterprise customers just this year.
Cool.
Which is pretty cool. And so, as you did mention Afghanistan, they did 30-day monitoring of the fall of Afghanistan. And so some interesting data from that was they got 300 plus AI-generated significant tips, is what they call it. And so that's, the AI bots telling someone in control that something's happened, someone's moved, an aircraft has moved, and it's been somewhat significant. So that's pretty cool. More than 200 published images, usable, archivable images, and only 90-minute latency of the live feed to those who were operating. Another interesting one is there's a port in Australia, in WA, called Port Hedland. Okay, and I'd never heard of it before. And it is apparently, I don't know how much this changes year to year, but as of possibly 2 years ago, they were promoting it as the world's largest bulk export port in the world.
Okay.
And so the reason that is by sheer tonnage, and I think it's mainly coal,
iron ore and
iron ore and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so Black Sky did a 12-month monitoring of that, and they monitored the port itself, and they had allocated on their system where each port docked. So where does BHP, where's their sections where they dock their boats, and this company and this company and this company.
Yeah.
And then similar to the car park thing, basically, they could show you how each boat parking spot, I don't know what you call that. Mooring? It's not even a mooring. What is it? Slippage? Great.
Yeah.
How each slippage was used throughout the 12-month period. So it's kind of cool. It gives them some data. And so currently their data or their stats are 1 million observations per day, more than 100,000 data sources delivering around 18,000 significant events every day. So that's pretty cool. So in regards to their share price and the SPAC and Palantir, so in August 2021, Palantir and Black Sky completed a joint pilot program where they were able to deliver intelligence to certain Palantir customers within minutes without human interaction. So what I could tell from that is it seemed to speed up Palantir's process for certain customers who required it. The program or the joint venture integrates Black Sky imagery and analytics into the Foundry platform. Yeah, cool. And Palantir users can access Black Sky tasking on-demand functions.
Yeah, so Foundry is their corporate enterprise software, and I would assume that it wouldn't integrate into their Gotham stuff because Gotham is the because that's what they already use for military and
Gotham
everything.
Is?
Yeah, okay, and I assume that Gotham has to be run off the military's own satellites because of security reasons and everything. Yeah, which means that because I saw them retasking satellites and stuff in Palantir. Yeah. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's really cool. Oh, but they couldn't do that with just any satellite. Yeah. They would have to use their own stuff. So, yeah, that makes more sense. That it's a Foundry integration. And so because of that successful joint program over a certain period of time, Palantir committed to an equity investment, which is scheduled after the SPAC combination. So that's pretty cool. And so the SPAC itself... Oh, so it hasn't already merged?
They've announced it, but it isn't trading with that ticker.
Right, okay, so they're still... Yeah.
So,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's still a blank check company.
Yes.
And
yes,
Black...
correct.
What's it called? Black Sky?
Black Sky.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, correct. And so the SPAC itself, as I said, it's called Osprey Technology Acquisition Corp. The ticker is SFTW, and the owners of the corporation is Edward and Jonathan Cohen, who are father and son, which is interesting. And
just like his old business.
Yes, true, I suppose. Yeah, that's true. Just like Jason Andrews and his father and his wife. And it's their second SPAC that they've ever done. And it was raised at a $1.5 billion valuation. I don't know what the valuation of Palantir is, but assuming it's a lot more than that.
Yeah, it's about 40 billion.
Okay, great. To give some perspective. And it provides about 280 million in cash to Black Sky. And a couple of notable PIPE investors, Tiger Global, Peter Thiel's Mithril Capital Fund, and Hedda Sophia, which is a guy named Ian Osborne's organization. But the reason that seemed recognizable to me is because he partners with Chamath in all of his SPACs.
Oh, cool.
So their SPACs they're sponsored by Social Capital Hedda Sophia.
Oh, right.
Right? That whole phrase?
Yeah.
And so Ian Osborne has his own like companies or whatever.
Yeah.
And he does his own things. And so that was my take on it, because I read one article and it said that Chamath had invested in it.
Yeah.
And then I looked into it and I don't think he has. I think they just assumed, like they saw Hedda Sophia and then they knew that Social Capital Hedda Sophia was like one thing.
Yeah.
And they just assumed that he'd invested in it. I don't think he has.
Yeah.
But his partner in all of his SPACs has invested in it, which is kind of cool.
It's like Moe and Shandon, and then they're two separate companies. But if you
that?
see one of
I don't
them,
know what that is.
you know the most famous champagne in the world is
Moe. I know Moe. Yeah.
Yeah, Moe.
Yeah.
And Moe and Shandon is like what the like mega bottle is, and Shandon is a separate brand.
Oh, really?
And Moe is a separate brand.
Yeah.
And they both make their own like separate champagnes, but they also make one.
Oh, really?
Together.
Okay, but people associate them together. I like it.
Say Chamath's last name.
Palahapatia.
Nice.
Yeah, I think we're getting better.
All right.
And so they listed at $10 a share USD, and they began. No, that's wrong actually. That's true, but I think the merger has actually completed. I think it completed about 10 days ago. I think maybe the ticker is BKSY. I think it is. And it certainly will be by the time this comes out. And the market price today is $10.59. It was like $11 something, but old mate in China crashed everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the market cap is currently $1.4 billion. So, in summary, I think it's a cool company. I think it's cool because I like Palantir, and if Palantir think it's legit, then I think it's legit. I like that they haven't like just come and like opposed each other, but they're working together.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think that's really cool, and it provides a lot of value to both customers. And so I think they must have realized that like the sum of the combination is more than the individuals, you know?
Ooh.
And so...
That's a clippable piece right there. That's good.
And so I think that's really awesome. And so I think it's good business. I own a little bit and I might buy more. Bought some today, which was a good time.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah, everything's down, so...
But anyway, in the long run game, who cares?
Yeah. Yep.
So that's that. Now... My second segment is related to that. Shall I just keep going?
Yeah, I think we got to leave a space for a little transition sound. We don't have to.
Okay, so I mentioned the father and son combo who did this SPAC.
Yes.
Okay.
And now we're going to do the 10 most popular father and sons. And we're going to do a countdown.
So there's a lady named Betsy Z. Cohen. And I'm excited by this segment because there's no content on her online. Well, there's virtually none.
So we're going to make some up.
So there's a total of probably 3, maybe 4 interviews with her online.
Okay.
And they all have less than 3,000 views each.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of articles. There might be like, from what I could find, there might be like 5 articles that really reference her. But I think she's a really profound figure in the finance world, particularly with SPACs.
Okay, so Betsy who?
Betsy Cohen.
Betsy Cohen, okay.
But
right.
It's Betsy Z. Cohen because there's another Betsy Cohen who is actually a little bit more famous.
Okay.
And so if you just say Betsy Cohen, you'll find her and she does some random stuff.
Z, so like...
Z is her middle name. I don't know what it is.
Oh, okay.
Actually, what would it be?
I wanted to know what it was.
There's not very many Z's.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Or
Betsy Z.
Zs.
Cohen. I don't know.
We got to appeal to our US 12.6% audience.
That's true.
Yeah.
And so she's 79 years old.
Yeah, right.
Okay. And she's still very
Cohen,
active.
Is this related to the previous Cohens?
Yes.
Then?
I'll bring it all together here.
Okay, right. Sorry. Yeah.
And so she's 79 years old, and I think she might be the real SPAC queen. I think more so than Chamath.
Take that, Chamath.
And so she started over her life. So she's 79. She's pretty old. She started 8 companies from scratch where she was CEO and took them all public.
Cool.
Fairly impressive. And so the family is her. So she's obviously the mum. Her husband is Edward Cohen, who was one of the directors on the SPAC company that merged with Black Sky.
Black Sky, yeah.
Son Daniel Cohen, who was not a part of the deal with Black Sky, and other son Jonathan Cohen, who was. So just to recap, Edward and Jonathan were a part of the Black Sky deal. Betsy and Daniel were not. The reason is because Betsy and Daniel worked together as a team, mostly in fintech, right?
Okay.
And Edward and Jonathan, who were the father-son, seem to be working together doing SPACs as well, but not in fintech.
Right, okay.
Okay? It's very interesting. Well, I think it's interesting. I don't know. We'll see. So, bit of background. 1963, Betsy gets a Bachelor of Philosophy at a college called Bryn Mawr College, which is in Pennsylvania in the US. And then in 1966, 3 years later, she goes on to get her Juris Doctor, which we have that over here as well. It's kind of like a Masters of Law at the University of Pennsylvania. I believe in the US, that's the only way you can get a law degree. I think you have to do a bachelor and then a master's level law. Yeah, like then you go to law school. In Australia, that's not necessarily the case. And so I watched this really cool interview with her, and I just want to recite a few things she said. So she said she was a good student at law school, and she served on the law review, and she was recruited as an intern during summer, right, at a law firm. And so usually these interns are chosen at the end of the summer break to come and work for the firm. Yeah. Part-time whilst they're studying, right? And so she's kind of excited to do that. She knows she's a great student. She's been doing a great job. And so she has a meeting with the law firm manager who's looking after that. And he says, listen, you've been great, but the senior partner is just not ready to have a woman work for his law firm. And so she looked back at him and she says, and I quote, she don't know how she mustered up any courage, but she said, well, I think it's your loss. And then she walked away. And so she says, at that moment, it was clear to her that she never really wanted to work for anyone else ever again. And so I thought, wow, that's really cool. And so she became the second female law professor on the whole East Coast of the US. Pretty cool.
It's the second. Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah.
Second female law professor.
Yeah.
And she was teaching antitrust law and government regulation stuff at a law school called Rutgers Law School in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And so before the age of 30, she had started a shipping business in Hong Kong, a rental leasing company in Brazil, randomly. She'd done a joint venture with a bank in Spain, and she'd co-founded a Philadelphia law firm that was specializing in complex real estate and finance.
Cool.
Before 30. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so at age 32, we're in 1974 at this point, right? At age 32, she starts a bank called Jefferson Bank. It's not super interesting, other than a few facts. She was the first female bank CEO in Pennsylvania. Cool.
Yep.
And she, more notably, I suppose, she was one of the first female bank CEOs in America.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's pretty special. And so she later sold that company in 1999 for $340 million. Okay, a little bit of cash.
I got a good fact for you.
Okay, tell me.
There are more male CEOs named John than there are female CEOs in the US still.
Oh, what?
Lucky for me, my name's John also. Looks like I have a good shot.
Okay, so after the sale of Jefferson Bank, they started a family investment bank called Cohen and Company, of which Daniel was the chairman. So Daniel was the son who works with Betsy.
Yeah.
For most of the fintech stuff. So in 1999, which is the same year that they sold Jefferson Bank, they founded a company called the Bank Corp. And that was a partnership with Daniel and Betsy. And what they did was they provide technology and banking solutions to non-bank clients, such as PayPal.
Ah, yes.
Which is impressive. So currently on their website, they'll tell you that they have 20 billion card transactions a month. Sorry, $20 billion worth of card transactions a month.
Yes.
And they have about 1,600 non-bank fintech clients that use their platform, which is quite a lot. And so in 2014, Betsy retires from her position as CEO in the Bank Corp. And in the same year, in 2014, if we'll just bring in Edward Cohen here for a moment, he's been sitting idle in the sidelines. So let me give some perspective to what he's been doing. So by 2014, Edward Cohen has completed a sale, which has taken multiple years to multiple people, completed a sale of a business called Atlas Energy, and they're just an oil and gas company. But it was for the total of $12 billion. Okay? That's pretty serious money. 4.3 of that was paid by Chevron. And so Edward and Jonathan which is father-son, start Osprey Energy Acquisition Corp. So the purpose of this SPAC was to merge with an energy sector company.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I even wrote it down here, but they merged with some company. I think I did write it down here. They merged with a company called Royal Resources, and it was worth about $900 million. And they're like an oil and gas specialist. And so that was their first SPAC. So bring it back here for a moment. So Betsy's husband, Edward, has just sold, over a process of a few years, his business of $12 billion. He started a SPAC, and in the same year, Betsy founds with Daniel, her son, their company called Fintech Masala. And so in an interview, again, I was watching, it might have been a different one, Betsy explains the SPAC in her words, and she speaks very simply because it's kind of like a mid-America, that's probably wrong, but what
are your thoughts on Middle America?
No, the vibe is like just a simple mid-America woman.
Yeah.
Who's like seen a lot, who's seen a lot of changes in technology, and she seems quite wise. And so the way she explains it's really simply. And so I'll just try and give it to you in the way that she delivers it. So she says, SPAC sponsors takes the company public. So SPAC sponsor takes the company public. So they provide the private company a method of reaching that market, which is both faster and, she says, in some ways easier than an IPO. In its basic structure, it's just a merger between a private and a public company, and the resulting company just takes on the characteristics of the private company. And so this allows faster growing companies to reach investors that are very different from IPOs. So in IPOs, companies look backwards and talk about what they did, previous results, stuff like that. In her opinion, SPAC companies, their requirement is to look forward into what the merged entities would reflect, and you provide some sort of reflection on a forward-looking basis. And so when she was studying the differences between IPOs and SPACs, she thought that, which is a really cool point, she was saying that consumer market style companies would actually probably prefer IPOs because it's more of a branding exercise. It's like this big procession. You know, everyone knows that X company is going public and it's this big IPO. But she thinks that actually SPACs, you can more easily raise more capital, and the time to market is obviously quicker. So it's interesting. So she has done a total of 9 SPACs to date, which should be noted that Chamath and his social capital head of Sophia Holdings has only done A to F, which is only 6.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay. And so she's done, she did one which was only 8 days after she retired from the Bank Corp company.
Yeah.
And only a year later, that company got bought again and taken off the market for 50% more than the valuation that she had it at.
Nice.
When it was merged as the SPAC. And then her 5th SPAC was with a company called eToro. Yeah.
That's what they have in common.
Yes.
Now we're there.
So,
Okay.
this is called Fintech Acquisition Corp 5. And the question is whether or not this is has actually completed. I don't know if it has, but this is with eToro, which is a 14-year-old company, and basically, as we've talked about, it's kind of for young investors. She says that it gives them easy access to trading at a reasonable price, and they can learn from one another. And it's like a social media platform that they've trademarked as well.
Yeah, so I've got a friend that he was telling me the other day about his use of eToro.
Oh, yeah.
So he said that it's really good because he's got just an amount that he throws in. So it's heaps funny. I asked him how he picked his strategy and what stocks he picks and all that kind of thing. Because he was showing me his portfolio, and I was like, "Oh, cool! You got a bit of Microsoft, Amazon, a few different things here." And he goes, "Oh yeah, well, I'm actually copying the Swedish chess champions portfolio."
Wow!
And I was like, "Oh, that's random. Have you met this person? Did you watch YouTube videos of them?
Yeah.
Why did you choose them?" And he goes, "Oh, I just had a look, and they've just got better than average returns, and so." Every time I put in $100 or $1,000 or whatever, it automatically just allocates it, splits it across all those stocks that they've got. Wow. So that's why I've got 0.6 Microsoft stock and 5 Visa stock and all these different companies.
Wow.
Because it trades in and out for him and everything like that. He just has he just has to say, I want this person's portfolio. Yeah. And it just looks at the percentage of each company and just allocates that percentage to his money. So yeah, it's pretty clever. It's like a pretty clever thing. It is. And if you really trust that person, then
correct.
Yeah.
And so Q1 2021, they have more than 20 million users, and they're all outside of the US. Other than they currently have a crypto platform that's used in the US,
and they don't have any stock traders.
None of their stock traders is in the US, and that's 20 million users right now. So she was saying in an interview that within the next 6 months, they're going to launch their US platform.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So just saying there's a bit of growth to be had there.
Definitely. And I think Robinhood only has 20 million users.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, and that's only in the US.
Correct. So could be some potential for growth there if you want to buy it. So I'm not sure actually what the ticker for this... I don't think it's actually called eToro yet. So I don't think it's finalized. So I think maybe if you want to buy eToro on the market right now, it might still be called FinTech Acquisition Corp 5.
And that's on a US exchange?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And so it's actually interesting. She was saying that she met with them 3 years ago to try and take eToro public then.
Yeah.
And she sort of went through it all, and she actually decided that they weren't ready. And so it's actually a three-year process. And so they're taken public at a $10 billion valuation. So she's done one more company called FinTech Acquisition Corp, and then she moved into using Greek words to describe the acquisition companies. And so she's the seventh company. This is the seventh corporation she called Olympus Acquisition Corp, and this is a company called Payoneer, which might actually need further investigation. Have you heard of Payoneer? Okay, Payoneer is kind of cool. They mainly just do B2B payments. And so they do. They've got 5 million global e-commerce businesses that subscribe to their network, and they also service the eBay network. And so they say that they facilitate and democratize the access to payments and services for e-commerce providers. They've been around for 15 years, and I think they just allow people to move money between different business owners.
Yeah, right.
To maybe pay for stock and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is my understanding of it, as in physical inventory. And so after Payoneer, there's 2 more. There's Athena Acquisition Corp and there's Zeus Acquisition Corp. Athena does have a target. Zeus is yet to be named. Apparently her husband, Edward, is some sort of Greek scholar. And for that reason, I assume around the dinner table, they decided to start naming them
that's cool.
Greek names, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. They're all Greek gods.
Within her team, there's 15 people, and they range from just tech to legal to capital markets and accounting specialists.
Cool. And 15 or 50?
Just 15.
15, yes.
And the way that she structures most of her deals is that there's obviously a fee paid to the sponsor, being her company, up front. And then there's subsequent payments as the public stock reaches certain points, like certain targets, I guess. It pays out future payments to her company, and so she says that aligns the interest of her with the public markets and the company, and I think that's true. So I think it's kind of cool. So, in closing, as I said, Jonathan Edward did their first SPAC, which was that energy, was that Royal Resources company. And the second one that they have done is Osprey Technology Acquisitions, which is the deal with Black Sky. So that's their second SPAC,
yes. Yeah.
and that's at a $1.5 billion valuation. So they do have a third in the works. I can't remember what that one is specifically targeting, what industry. But it does seem to be the SPAC family, which is interesting. And just in closing, one interesting quote from her is, so she seems to be a bit of a public figure in regards to, I mean, not a huge one, but for certain women, she's probably good motivation. And so she says that whenever women ask her, and this might be sort of an old way of thinking, but she says she recommends women, if they're not going to be entrepreneurs, she recommends they find a workplace where the CEO has only daughters. Because she thinks in that environment only can the CEO really understand what female success looks like and have the drive to see it in his business. And so I thought that was really interesting.
Yep.
So there you have it.
That is an interesting, someone that a lot of people wouldn't really know, undercover billionaire.
It is. She is. They're the undercover billionaire SPAC family. And Betsy Cohen, she's pretty cool. We are potentially the first people to
ever talk about her.
Ever really do like a bit of a dive into her life. From what I could see.
Yeah.
And so she's had some cool moments with eToro and Payoneer and Black Sky. And so, cool lady who's doing a great job. 79, and she's still doing CNBC interviews and stuff like that. So
yeah,
pretty
for sure.
impressive.
Yep. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, that's the intro one. But anyway, I will be talking about something which has been having a bit of a run lately. Maybe not today. I should have updated my prices actually.
Did you say that this is going to be your best segment ever?
I didn't say that, but that was mostly you. But you know, I'm happy to claim it.
Okay,
we'll see what happens.
Let's make it your best one ever.
If it flops,
it's my
then
fault.
Obviously it won't be.
If it flops, it's my fault.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to be doing Solana or Sol, which is the crypto. So Solana is the blockchain.
Gotcha. Oh yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, and it's also the name of the company.
Okay.
So Solana is something that I think a lot of people have only just kind of caught on to, and it's snuck up all the way into number 7 on Coin Market Cap.
Are you serious?
Yes.
It really has.
So yeah, so it briefly touched 6 a couple of days ago. But yeah, it's pretty much in 7th place.
What's in that? Do you know what's around it? Like what's in that vicinity?
So it's ahead of, it's just behind Ripple XRP.
Whoa!
And it's just
crazy.
Above Polkadot. It's just ahead
really?
of
yeah, they're such common names. Okay, cool.
DOT.
That's sick.
Yeah, so in June 2018 was when it launched through its ICO.
ICO, yeah.
So it's been, I mean, I guess in crypto terms, maybe it's not that new, but in terms of like everything else, it is quite new. Like it's still
totally.
Yeah, it's only a year and a half old, or 2.5 years old. I mean.
Yep.
So yeah, on Solana, smart contracts are called programs, and the programs are written in Rust, C, and C++.
Oh. That's coding language, is it?
Yeah, so those languages basically are how you build and deploy smart contracts on the Solana chain.
Cool.
So there's a lot of commentary online about those languages being like kind of simple.
Yep.
But the main reason that those languages are chosen, I will get into this, but it's all about power and speed, basically, Solana. And having a payment system that's powerful and speedy is pretty much the main criteria that
I'd say having anything that's powerful and speedy would be ideal.
True. Okay. It applies to a lot of categories in life. So Solana is also focused around dApps or decentralized applications. I laughed at you last episode for saying
you're laughing
dApps.
at me at everything, bro. Look, you're going to say all these things that you laughed at me about.
Yeah.
Interoperability.
Interoperability. Well, I actually didn't talk about interoperability, so I'll still laugh at you about that one. I haven't done a crypto before as well, by the way. So this is my debut into a red hot one,
mate. And you are red hot. Keep going.
Thank you. So yeah, similar to what we're talking about on Everrise.
Yes.
However, dApps aren't really the main reason that Bitcoin exists.
Okay.
They are able to be built though in Rust, C, and C++.
Sick.
So its main purpose for existing is to be faster and more scalable than any other blockchain project.
Ooh.
And as well as having that those dApps and DeFi projects to exist on the blockchain.
Okay.
So on a dApp, you're basically storing data on a blockchain rather than a centralized database. That's basically the point of them.
Yep.
And the transaction and storage cost is paid for by your users instead of by you.
Yes.
So that's kind of the main purpose of a dApp.
Yeah.
And one thing that the founder Anatoly Yakovenko
well done.
found.
Very confident.
Thank you. He found
it's probably totally wrong, but it was very confident.
No, that's exactly how it. Yeah. So he found that Bitcoin and Ethereum have a scaling problem.
Okay.
And so that's where Solana steps in. So they're both essentially his mindset is that they're both too old. Like Bitcoin obviously too old, too slow.
How funny is that?
But
you're right.
Ethereum stepped in to replace Bitcoin and it's still too old and too slow basically.
Yes.
So So he started, so Anatoly Yakovenko started Solana, and he used to work at Qualcomm.
Oh.
And he founded it with two other...
You love Qualcomm.
Well, I don't know what it is, but he started it with... Thanks for the connection, mate.
Wait, you don't know what Qualcomm is?
What is it?
They make all radios and everything, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, I thought so. I've heard the name before, but I don't exactly know what they do.
Yeah, wireless technology and innovation. Sorry, I derailed it.
No, it's good.
I thought you would have known what Qualcomm was.
No, I mean, yeah, it's one of those names I think that you hear. It's one of those names that's kind of like Oracle, I think.
Yes.
Where it's a non-exciting tech company that you know what it is,
I'd agree with that.
You don't really know what they do,
4G, 5G, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's more like traditional IT. It's traditional boring IT instead of cool software, fresh, new,
Correct. IT infrastructure. There.
Yeah, so he founded it with two other Qualcomm engineers.
Oh, really? They're all from Qualcomm?
Yeah, so...
Oh, wow.
They've all worked in different places around Silicon Valley and whatever. But they named it after Solana Beach, which is where they all lived and surfed together.
Oh, that's pretty cool. They surf?
Yeah, so
I'll buy it.
Someone who's a little bit less nerdy starting your...
True, that's weird, bro.
Yeah.
What the heck? Actually, maybe I don't want to buy it.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean...
This is weird.
Well, that's what it kind of says, but if you look at the guy, I don't
He's nerdy?
Yeah, I don't think
Perfect.
Maybe you went surfing one time. One of those summer camp tryout.
On Kelly Pro Surfer on the PlayStation.
Probably, yeah.
That's what it was.
Well, I mean, they all did work at Qualcomm, so that gives you a lot of confidence in the
True, I'm sure
they're
very smart.
So November 2017 was when the white paper was published.
Yes.
And in Q1 of 2019 is when they had token distribution.
Oof.
Cool. All right, so I'm going to go into Solana clusters.
All right,
so
let's do it.
A Solana cluster is a set of validators working together to serve client transactions and keep the integrity of the ledger.
Okay.
And to create a cluster, there needs to be a Genesis config.
Okay.
So the config represents, it references two public keys, which is a mint and a bootstrap validator. This is as technical as we're going to get in this episode. Actually,
a mint and a bootstrap allocator.
A bootstrap validator. Sorry.
Validator. And they're both what? Wallets?
They're both two public keys. So
okay, what's a public key?
Essentially, the account that holds the bootstrap validator's private key, that's responsible for adding in the initial entries to the ledger, and the mint is a part of the account which will hold the number of native tokens and will make the initial ledger payments using the first entries into the ledger.
Okay.
So basically, the mint holds a set number of SOL.
Yeah.
And the whole purpose of the mint is to settle the first entries into that validator's ledger. Mm-hmm. And so that settles those transactions.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of set up as a part of the blockchain
Mm-hmm.
in order to make sure that those first few transactions are legit.
Mm-hmm.
And then once those first few transactions in that ledger
Mm-hmm.
are good, then it's good to go. So I believe that would happen at the start of every epoch, which we have
Interesting.
talked
Yeah,
about
we have
before.
talked about that before.
I'm not 100% sure if that's the like at the start of the epoch, but I think that's what it means by at the start of each ledger.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the bootstrap validation can happen once voting from all the other validators takes place.
Yep.
So the other validators will confirm the new Genesis configs transactions aren't copies.
Yep.
And that the ledger entries are legitimate.
Yep.
And then that node or Solana cluster is
Yep.
essentially allowed to be created.
Okay.
And obviously that cluster has the mint and the bootstrap validator.
And so you're using cluster and node interchangeably there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Was I? Yeah.
No, that's right, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Great.
And so anyway,
I'm just wondering whether cluster was a cluster of nodes or whether cluster is a node.
No, I think it's the node. I think it's like the node that starts off the epoch.
Yep.
So I think that's the idea of it.
Makes sense.
You know, the only reason that I'm actually still going in this segment is just that motivation that I'm getting from the other side of the table. So that's actually good stuff.
Okay,
yeah, it's keeping me going.
I'm trying to get you home so you can eat your sausages and mash.
Yeah. No, don't worry about that. I'm motivated by I'm on crypto time now.
Okay.
So block time and transactions per second.
Yes.
So
Tell us.
Sol's block time was 400 milliseconds.
Oh, okay.
ETH, which is Ethereum's block time, is 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And BTC, Bitcoin block time, is 10 minutes.
Yes, that's right.
So what does that actually mean?
Mm-hmm.
Transactions per second is the next section that I'm going to be going into.
Yep.
So Bitcoin can process 7 transactions per second.
Yep.
Ethereum can handle between 15 and 45 transactions per second.
Yep.
Visa can process 24,000 transactions per second.
Yep.
Nasdaq can transfer can do 500,000 transactions per second.
Yep.
And Solana can process 710,000 transactions per second.
Damn. Okay.
So that's
Cool.
that's kind of the point of it. It's
Great.
very, very quick. So the 710,000 transactions per second is on a 1 gigabyte network with no data partitioning.
Yeah.
So the whole point of it is that it's built to be fast.
Yeah, it's cool.
And it's built to actually work. So how does it manage that? You might be wondering.
Yeah, I was wondering that.
You're probably thinking, wow, it's even faster than the Nasdaq. I didn't actually realize that the Nasdaq is essentially, what's that? That's 20 times faster than Visa, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, right.
Because 500,000 with the Nasdaq, that's I mean, I'm more proud of Nasdaq anyway. No.
Okay, how do they do that? How do they keep up with those?
How do they do that?
How do they do that, Isaac?
They have something which is, so we've heard of proof of work before.
I've heard of it. Yep.
That's obviously the traditional mining,
Traditional,
old,
we
kind
don't
of
like
system.
that.
Yeah, we don't like that. It's not very good for the environment. You know? We've heard of proof of stake.
We have.
This uses proof of history.
Yep.
Which is actually it's an expansion on proof of stake. So it's not actually opposed to proof of stake.
Yep.
So it uses proof of stake.
Yeah.
But the system is called proof of history. And so the difference is here, it uses timestamps in the blockchain to place a specific time and date on the blocks.
Mm-hmm.
And the advantage of this, and part of what makes the network so much faster, is because of the timestamps, validators know their order without having to communicate with each other.
Yeah, right.
So there's a specific time when the block is supposed to be sent to the blockchain.
Yeah.
And due to various speeds of internet and systems, they might not arrive at the same time.
Yeah.
But the blockchain knows how to organize them based on when they were sent.
Yep.
Now that's a key difference between a traditional proof of stake and this new proof of history.
Okay.
So essentially, and there was actually a really good analogy where you tell your uncle, your brother, and your cousin to send you a letter, and they don't write the date on it, and your uncle goes to Russia, and your cousin lives next door, and and your brother goes somewhere else. They all send you the letter. You get them in a random order, and they're 3 parts of a story. you're not going to know what happened first or what the deal is.
Yep.
Whereas with proof of history, all they had to do was write the date at the top, and
Yeah, right.
you can put them in the right order, so it doesn't matter. So with essentially what that means is with proof of stake,
Yep.
you're waiting on the slowest transaction to come in first before you can enter the next transaction.
Yeah, right.
But with proof of history, I believe what it means is you can just enter all the transactions and they know exactly where it's supposed to go because they know with the timestamp they can just put the other ones in earlier.
That's pretty cool.
So
that's a defining difference between Ethereum 2.0 and Solana.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
And
I like it.
The way that Solana themselves describe it is if there are 4 snapshots of dye diffusion in water.
Oh yeah.
You would know you always know which way to put it in because you can see the dye spreading out into the water.
Yes, correct.
So essentially,
oh okay, that's the metaphor.
Essentially, the Solana blockchain always knows which transaction goes where.
Wow.
So incoming events and transactions are hashed, which means they're given a unique timestamp.
Yep.
And so then we know which order they go in.
Yeah.
And it's never held up by consensus protocols, which is another slowdown issue of proof of work and proof of stake.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's where other nodes have to be used to help verify a transaction.
Correct.
So yeah, the staking part, how does that kind of play into it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you asked. Because the more Solana you have staked, the more like your reward is basically, which makes sense. That's kind of how staking works. But it's kind of how it works usually.
No, you're right. No. So you're saying like there's a reward for people who like every time there's a transaction, there's a percentage that goes to holders of the coin. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And then you get a percentage based on how much you hold?
Yeah.
Okay, understood. Yep, good.
Yeah, so each node that has Solana staked in it, they're already pre-allocated the validation.
Yeah.
So what that means is that you can see which node it's going to allocate, which is part of how they get that speed as well.
Yeah.
You can see which one's coming next, which node's going to be the next validator.
Yep. So no one's fighting for validation or anything.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah,
and because it's already like pre-chosen.
Yep.
That means that there's obviously more speed can be done that way.
Okay, let me confirm this for a sec. So we're thinking that there's a percentage, maybe you'll tell us in a minute, of fees that go towards people who've staked, or nodes. It's nodes who have staked Solana to be a part of the verification system. Is that right? And so me, as a holder of a wallet with Solana in it, I'm not going to receive those percentages because I'm not staking it towards a node. I'm just holding it in my wallet. So the incentive for me, like I'm just trying to figure out what the incentive is for me to stake my Solana in a node. And I assume it's as you're saying. Sorry if I'm making this convoluted. My assumption is that the incentive to stake it in the node is because only that way can you get that percentage of the transaction fee. You don't get the transaction fee if you just have it in a wallet, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, and you're not going to. absolutely. So you have to actually actively stake.
Understood.
Still.
Yeah.
And because each node has its own hashing, obviously.
Yes.
Then the blockchain knows the order that you put it in. So essentially the key difference is obviously that timestamp that each node that the node places on the transaction.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how that works.
That's cool.
In terms of programs, there are two.
Yeah, as in the dApps?
No, so the programs, are the smart contracts.
Oh, the smart contracts.
But
yeah.
the programs are the aren't the third party made things. They're just all the native things. So there's the native programs, which they're not particularly interesting, but there's the systems, config, staking, voting.
Okay.
Something called BPF loader and something called SECP 256K.
Oh, cool.
And they're all just those are the native ones.
Yep.
And then there's the Solana program library.
Yep.
Which has a token program, token swap program, token lending program, associated token account program.
Yep.
Memo program, name service, shared memory program, stake pool program, and feature proposal program. Yep. So you can pay to vote. with the feature proposal stuff.
Yeah.
And you pay Solana, and you can get to vote on how it all works out. The cost per transaction on average is 0.000025 USD. So
wow.
It's really, really cheap as well as being really fast.
Wow.
So it's...
Bro, is this better than Nano?
Well, I think that is... I don't know if it's cheaper than Nano, but it seems like...
Nano doesn't have any fees, but if they're that negligible, then who really cares?
Yeah, and it's also come up like that quick. It's risen to the top that quickly.
Correct.
So it's
it's got much more adoption.
How can it be that bad?
Yeah, can't be that bad.
Exactly.
And that's our review.
And that's our review. We're done. Talking about the validators.
Yeah.
There are 1,063.
Oh, okay.
And
nodes.
Yeah, and each one
doesn't seem like very many.
Cycles around. Yeah, it's a surprisingly low number. So there's a website called solanabeach.io.
Yeah.
And you can actually see which validator is currently leading and which validator is coming up next for transactions. Mm-hmm. The top 19 validators, here's a bear case for you. The top 19 validators have 33.6% of the current staking pool.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit centralized in your little decentralized currency.
Yeah.
Still not a huge issue. Like I don't think it's that serious. Like that is 19 different things, and it's a third of them.
Yeah.
And Solana Beach also shows delinquent validators, which is interesting to look at.
Okay.
So it shows how long they've been offline for and when their last vote on the Serum system was. So Serum is the voting system.
Yep.
That's incorporated in that.
Delinquent voters, that's a funny term, isn't it?
Yeah, delinquent, yeah. So, you can see a couple of delinquent people. So they've got I don't actually know how much they have to stake in order to get their own validator.
Yeah.
But obviously it'd be sad to get penalized for having so much of your, so much SOL on your...
Definitely.
On the blockchain. In terms of wealth distribution, there are 504 million SOL, and the top 10 wealthiest accounts hold 49 million of it, which is about 10%.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And the 11th to the 50th wealthiest accounts hold 82 million SOL, which is 16%.
Okay.
And the 51st to 100th wealthiest accounts also hold 82 million, which is 16%.
Okay, distribution seems okay.
So the top 100 accounts hold 42% of the SOL. So that's kind of how that breaks down.
Okay.
So it's a little bit, I don't know, it's also a little bit, a lot of whales.
Yes.
But we'll get into the reason for that in a minute.
Can't wait.
Yeah, no, it'll be good. They're 75% of accounts. This is also another kind of bear case. 75% of accounts hold between 0.001 SOL and 0.01 SOL, which... at $164, which it was quite recently.
Yeah, right. We're talking real money.
Yeah.
It's none of these like 0.000000007 cents.
No. It's a real currency. But at $164 USD, which it was yesterday.
Yeah.
That means that 3/4 of accounts hold $1.64 or less.
Okay.
So that's concerning. But at the same time, I can't compare that with any of the other ones.
No.
So, I mean, and there are a lot of people on cryptos that are just like, I'll get a little bit of this and a little bit of this and that kind of thing. And heaps of people playing around. So
yeah, a lot of testing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of current usage, there are only 2,200 live transactions per second at the moment.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what's happening now.
Yeah.
So it's both inflationary and deflationary.
Ah.
So
how is that?
Well, I'm gonna get to it. So 100% of transaction fees were originally burned. Now it's 50% of transaction fees.
Okay.
And the other 50% goes towards a hackathon, which is basically a little thing where they try and find vulnerabilities and flaws and stuff like that.
And they offer a prize money.
And they offer $5 million in prizes.
Cool.
So they're currently offering $5 million
really
in prizes.
Sick. That's cool.
So and then 50% of the transaction fees are burned now.
Yeah.
And
meaning that it's been transferred into a wallet that no one can access.
Yeah. And
with the idea being that it makes the currency more scarce.
Yeah, with the idea being that. But the inflation schedule, so that was the deflation part. The inflation part is that staking rewards are 8% at the moment. And then the reward will gradually be cut over a 10-year period where it'll eventually, in 10 years' time, it'll be 1.5%.
Oh, wow.
So that'll be the reward for and then it'll be 1.5 for the next 5 years after that.
Yeah, well, hopefully the value of the currency is so much that...
Yeah, and so that's kind of the point. So the high inflation is to promote validator adoption.
Yeah.
And then as it gets more and more valuable over time, the rate of inflation goes down and people own a lot of it, so it's good.
Yep.
All right, now I'm going to get into the funding rounds. Okay. So 34% of their supply originally was sold in 4 private funding rounds pre-ICO. So that's 34% of their supply now was sold at that time.
Okay.
So, yeah, there's basically, in March 2018, they raised $3.2 million at 4 cents per token.
Oh my goodness.
In June 2018, they raised $12.6 million at 20 cents per token.
And this was all before it was on the market, is that right?
Yeah,
okay.
That's right.
Okay.
And in July 2019, they raised $5.7 million at 22 cents per token.
Yeah.
And then their launch round was $2.4 million in funding at 25 cents per token.
Wow.
So their recent fundraising, though, so Solana got $314 million in VC-led funding.
Right.
And it was led by Andreessen Horowitz, Polychain Capital, and Alameda Research.
Oh, yeah.
So the exact amount was $314,159,265.35.9.
Glad I know that.
And the amount was because that's pi times 100 million.
Oh.
So if you're worried about them being too sporty or cool, you definitely don't have to. It's still a buy from me.
Well.
So yeah, they raised, and instead of raising equity, they raised the funding through Solana's sold digital tokens, obviously.
Do you know what the value of the tokens was when they
this was earlier this month. I think it was.
Do you reckon they did it at market price, or would they have given them a discount? Or you don't know?
I'm not sure, but if we look at 1 month ago, on the 22nd of the 8th, the price was $75.49.
All right.
And the current price that's in USD, and the current price is $141.50. And it hit it.
It's amazing to think that these investment banks or whatever or funds are buying literally like tokens, and seeing this kind of increase in a month or so.
Well, it maxed out on the 9th at 212 USD.
Really?
So yeah,
wow,
pretty crazy.
Is it down a bit now? Is it?
Yeah, it's down a bit.
Okay.
It's had a little bit of a correction, but it's still. I mean, it's still
double.
Well,
that's the nature of it.
It's still 100% more than
Some
it was a month ago.
Some people took their profits and didn't see any more in it.
Yeah.
We'll go higher, I'm sure, once I buy some.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something that I'm talking about was $31 a year ago today.
Yeah, right.
And it's right up at 141 now.
Crazy.
So yeah, it's a pretty decent gain, but obviously something that launched it at 25 cents as well. So
who are these people?
It's
crazy.
Yeah, it's great stuff.
It is.
So who owns most of it? So 12.5% is currently held by the founders.
Oh yeah.
12.5.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Do you know what the market cap is?
The market cap is currently $42 billion.
Okay.
So
they've got $5 billion.
Oh, here we go. There's fully diluted market cap and there's market cap.
Fully diluted. Are they still generating tokens?
They're giving an 8% return on everyone, but I think that the supply was originally 550 million.
Yeah.
Now it's 504 million, but they are burning tokens.
Yeah.
But I think that the returns are given out of the next one, which is Solana Foundation, which holds 12.5%.
Yeah, right.
So they're probably giving the 8% return out of the Solana Foundation.
Okay.
Yeah,
and introducing new tokens.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're holding those tokens.
They're holding them. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And they're giving them out.
And they're redistributing them.
Yeah, that's right. 4% is held by the grant pool, which is that hackathon and that. And so I guess they'll use. They also use that money, I think, to pay other projects and stuff on the Solana blockchain. 35.6% is held by locked purchasers, so they can't sell. So I assume what that means is that's a staked amount, and then 33.9 of the holders are the community.
Yeah.
So I assume what it means by the community is that those people just have it in wallets, but it's not staked.
Yes.
So about 70% seems to be publicly held, or not particularly publicly held.
If you include staking and
the amounts that are staking and wallet are about 70%.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Understood.
So the price was 163 USD a couple of days ago.
Yes.
Yeah. Now it's down to 141.
Wow.
So the market cap, the fully diluted market cap, is $71 billion.
Oh wow.
So, yeah, I'm not sure what CoinMarketCap defines as their market cap.
Yeah.
Oh, it's their current price times their circulating supply. So the fully diluted market cap is the one to go for because that's the actual full supply.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, 71 billion. So yeah, there's a fair bit that's not circulating. So I guess that's 30 billion that's not really circulating, which is good because it means that people are holding it for the long term.
Interesting.
And yeah, seventh largest crypto behind Ripple and ahead of Polkadot.
Yep.
And at the start of 2021, the price was under $2, which is
whoa,
which is an interesting one.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And all right, so I'll move on to Solana's projects and its dApps.
Okay.
So here we go.
Are you going to name all 700 dApps?
There are 338 actually. I'm glad you asked. And
here we go. Lock in, people.
These are my favorites. So the first one I'm going to talk about briefly. I'm going to talk about all of these briefly. I don't know why you think that. Looking at the time, how much time have we got?
No, we got all the time in the world, bro.
Oh, nice. So the first one I'm going to talk about is called Wormhole. It's a cross-chain blockchain connector between Sol, Ethereum, Bitcoin, and FTM.
Provides interoperability between the chains.
Yes, interoperability. And
so good.
Basically, that means you can move tokenized assets across blockchains and benefit from Solana's high speed and low fees.
Cool. Oh, so you can trade Bitcoin on Solana chain.
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't know.
I think,
Nice.
I guess, yeah.
You heard it here.
Next I'm going to... I don't know. So the next...
Take that back.
The next thing that I'm going to talk about is a category called AMM, Automated Market Makers.
Ooh.
So... I like automated market makers, and I'm going to talk more about I'm going to talk about more about AMMs in a later episode.
Cool.
There are 26 of these on Solana.
Yep.
One of them is called Radium, which is probably the most common one. There's also Saber and Hydra Swap. Basically, market making, to go over it, is where you provide the relative price of an asset against another asset.
Yep.
Being a market maker, you have to provide a bid and ask price of Solana or of Sol.
Yep.
And it means that you're providing the buy and the sell price.
Yep.
And the market maker takes the spread between the bid and ask.
Yep.
And as a reward, you get that spread, and you also get to keep the market efficient, basically.
Yep.
And so if you're providing the wrong price, someone can arbitrage against you, basically. Yep. And if you provide the right price, you get that reward for being efficient, basically.
Okay.
So, the way that you actually get into these is a system called liquidity pools. So a few different services offer them, like Binance.
Cool.
And that's a good example of DeFi income.
Interesting.
Yeah, so Radium is the biggest... it's a pretty big market maker in terms of just like Sol.
Yeah.
And it also offers options like exchange, yield farming, pooling, and a launchpad for more Solana projects.
Right.
And it's partnered with Serum, which is the decentralized exchange built entirely for Solana, and it's like the voting exchange.
Yeah.
And a couple of general apps. These are my 6... Well, I was going to say 6 favorites, but they're just 6 random ones that I pulled out.
Perfect.
But no, they're good. So I thought that they were funny. So the first one is called Bali Sari.
Okay.
And this is a project that's based in Bali where customers can pay for tours and airport services around Bali using Sol. I think it's specifically airport-based.
Okay.
Which is very niche.
Very niche.
The next one is called Human Protocol. This is a Singapore-based company that helps machine learning and solicits people to label tasks, identify raw data like videos, images, and text, and turns all of that into meaningful information for AI to improve tasks like speech and visual recognition, which is cool.
Okay.
All right, the next one is called Solana Roll. This is a dice-based Solana gambling game.
Oh.
And the one after that is called Soldate, which is a dating platform built on Solana.
What?
Solarium, which is a decentralized end-to-end encrypted messenger on Solana's blockchain.
Okay.
And Polarity, which is a community-owned decentralized advertising network on Solana.
Okay.
So there's a couple of cool projects that you can build on Solana.
Yeah.
Next category I'm going to talk about is DeFi.
Okay.
So there are 106 DeFi applications.
Oh.
And I'm going to talk about every single one. No. So there are a couple of... So these are my top 3 that I pulled from there.
Great.
So there's Anchor, which provides a basic savings product.
Oh, yeah.
Jet Protocol, which provides lending products and cross-chain interest rate arbitrage.
Okay.
Which is cool. So they're...
Interesting.
Yeah, they're finding the inconsistencies in different chains, I guess, and using Solana to capitalize on them.
Okay.
And Solyard Finance, which is a yield farming aggregator, which is a DeFi term.
Okay.
Next segment. So I'm done with the dApps and stuff now.
That's it.
Now. Well,
boom.
Kind of. So I'm talking about the serious ones now.
Okay.
So you might have heard me saying to you the other day that, because you wouldn't have heard it, but the first $1 million NFT was sold on Solana. So the first $1 million NFT on Solana was sold the other day.
Yeah. Yes.
And that was using a platform called Metaplex, which there are 42 different NFT projects on Solana. This one seems to be the biggest one.
Metaplex. Okay.
This is the one that they're kind of advertising as well. Like Solana advertises on its page and everything like that.
Yeah.
So I'm only going to talk about that. But basically, it's an NFT tool which operates using Solana and has low cost minting. So the average mint cost is 34 cents and the average auction cost is $3.01.
Yep.
And compare that with Ethereum NFT projects. NFTs typically cost an average of $70 to $120 to mint.
Oh, wow.
And during peaks, that can go up to $300. So the first NFT to sell on Solana for $1 million was a degenerate ape. And basically it looks like a green ape with a brain in its mouth. And it sold for 5,980 Sol or 1.1 million USD.
Wow.
So yeah, that's a good one. And you thought NFTs were dead when we did them in March or whatever it was.
Well, I'm still skeptical.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've really hyped up over the last
they have. Yes,
month
I
or
agree.
2 months. Yeah.
Yes.
No, definitely you should be skeptical because I also am. I just think they're funny. And so, so I'm all bullish on those. No, I'm not. But yeah, I mean, the amount of teenage millionaires that there are now from all the different degenerate apes and monkeys and stuff.
Yes.
It's very comedic. So the next project that I'm going to... So these are like the projects that Solana advertises as like its main... It's basically got 3 that it really pushes on its website as like the really cool the really cool ones.
Yeah.
The next one is called Audius. This is a music streaming platform based in San Francisco and LA, and it has 5 million monthly active users.
Yeah.
And it's built on the Solana blockchain, and it seems to have a really heavy like use case to support artists. So seems to pay them in Solana and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it sounds a lot like Tidal to me. Like it seems like an exact same Tidal, but it's built on Solana.
Gotcha. And how'd that go?
It didn't go well, but that's on Jay-Z.
True.
Maybe these guys will do it better.
Yeah.
So had a bit of a branding problem, but we can talk about that another day.
Another day.
And the next project is Star Atlas.
Okay.
So this one's cool. This is an MMORPG.
Okay.
But what does that mean? What do letters on a screen mean? What is life? It's a massive multiplayer role-playing game.
Okay.
So if you've heard of World of Warcraft, I think it's essentially
I have heard
like
of it.
one of those, except it features 2 in-game currencies, which are on the Solana blockchain.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
And a range of NFT collectibles.
Yep. Yeah,
and it said that you should actually be able to make money by being good at the game.
Yep.
So that's a unique spin on gaming actually being useful, which is kind of cool.
True.
And next I'm going to talk about the other coins that are on Solana.
Okay,
so USDT and USDC, you might have heard of them.
Yeah.
Tether, as well as the other stable coin for US dollars, are on Solana.
Really?
So Tether is on Solana, Ethereum, EOS, and Bitcoin Cash blockchains.
Okay.
And USDC, 2.2 billion in USDC is issued on Solana.
Okay.
And I think it's about 2 billion Tether as well.
Yep.
That's on Solana also.
Yep.
And USDC, 50 million of it is traded on average daily on Solana.
Wow.
And so those are the two stable coins.
Yes.
Basically use Solana a lot. So
yes.
It's kind of cool.
I think Tether is a little bit I don't know. There've been some things that people have been talking about in regards to how much of the Tether is actually pinned to real.
Yeah.
you know, currency. Bit of a worry at some point, but I don't know.
True. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's been a bit of there's a lot of people talk about it as a
little
scam.
bit of controversy. Yeah, a little bit of a scam. But I don't know.
Hard to say.
It is hard to say.
I haven't researched it myself.
Neither.
Yeah. But here's another cool one. FTX is entirely built on Solana.
Oh, is it?
So the ticker is actually FTT on most exchanges, which I find funny.
Yeah.
So using FTX, there has been 4.3 billion transacted since its inception.
Yeah.
With 80 million in average daily volume. So FTX is a decentralized derivatives exchange, and it's created by Sam Bankman-Fried, who also started Alameda Research and is the youngest billionaire in the world.
Really?
At 29 years old. So he's a really interesting dude. And he
youngest billionaire?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
So he...
Wouldn't there be some other random crypto billionaire who's like...
Well, I'm looking at it. I don't know.
Oh, you're looking at it. Yeah. No, you're probably right. Just
$1 billion is a lot of money.
Yeah, it is a lot of money, isn't it?
I mean, there's someone with the last name Andreessen who's 25, but that reminds me a lot of Andreessen Horowitz.
Yes.
So, yeah.
No, continue. You're right.
Yeah. So anyway, he's an interesting dude. So, maybe maybe there's something about him being rich and young. Anyway, it says that he's amassed a $10 billion fortune in just 3 years.
Right. That's a lot.
Which is pretty cool.
That is.
And Alameda Research
He's
is also
FTX
his company.
guy, is that what you said?
Yeah. And he started Alameda Research, which is a big VC as well.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
So yeah, maybe he's done a lot anyway. So
true. FTX have the naming rights for the stadium in Miami.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah. It was American Airlines Arena, and now it's FTX.
Yeah, so
it's
something
legit.
Something you can do with money, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Solana, it seems like a pretty cool coin. It's got a couple of centralization issues, I think, on one hand, but it's also got insane speed.
Yes.
It's truly like you put its stats against any other crypto. Pretty much seems to be better in terms of cost effectiveness, speed.
Yeah.
Seems quite powerful.
Yeah.
Not a lot of drawbacks.
Yeah.
So
and additional applications that are built on it as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, and And one of the other negatives is obviously that you can only build in Rust C and C++, which I think people have issues with. Because I think that they like to program with other things.
Okay, so it could limit developers potentially.
Yes, but apart from that, I think it's potentially it's definitely my favorite crypto out there.
Do you own it?
I do own it.
What percentage would you say of your portfolio?
I couldn't give you an exact because...
a bit of a rough. Obviously, things change every day.
Yeah.
Are we talking 5%, 10%, 50%?
Of
75%.
So of my crypto portfolio, I would
Yeah.
say it's like 30%.
Oh wow, okay, significant.
Yeah.
Great.
What are your thoughts on it?
Sounds like I should go buy some.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to you. This is not financial advice, which I can say for the first time.
Are you a financial advisor?
No, I have to say it now. Legally required. So it's the show that costs less than a Met Gala ticket. Thank you for joining us on HQLA episode 19.
Very reasonably priced.
Very reasonably priced. It's a show that costs us less than $35,000 to produce.
You wouldn't know, though.
I mean, doesn't look like it, does it? If you liked this episode, please say nice lighting.
Yes, and a 5-star comment. That'd be great.
A 5-star comment, please.
Yes, we love the 5-star comments.
Yeah. Do you ever wonder what the news anchors talk about as like the credits are?
Oh, when they're all talking to each other and they're laughing?
Then they're like,
wouldn't they be just saying some random stuff? Like, what's that word that you're supposed to say?
A rhubarb.
Rhubarb.
Do you reckon? Or do you reckon they're like, what are you up to on the weekend, Trev?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe they have a thing. Like, maybe they ask a question like every time, like, what you had for dinner last night, Trevor?
Yeah. And they just keep that question up.
Yeah, same question every time or something.
Yeah. Maybe they have a beginning at one and an end one, because there's also that beginning bit where they're shuffling the papers.
That's true.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Good stuff.